There's a person in your life, maybe a coworker, maybe someone you grew up with who barely speaks. They don't crack jokes in the group chat. They don't try hard in conversations. They just exist. And somehow, without doing anything obvious, everyone around them takes them seriously. People listen when they finally speak. Nobody talks over them. Nobody tests them. And then there's you. You're smart. You're kind. You try. You show up. You explain yourself. You laugh at the right moments, say the right things. And still, somehow you feel like people don't quite take you seriously the way you want. What's the difference between those two people? It's not looks. It's not confidence in the way self-help sells it. It's not even how much you've achieved. It's a set of very specific behaviors, things you do every single day, without realizing that quietly signal to everyone around you that you don't fully trust yourself. And people feel that. They respond to it. Not because they're cruel, but because the human brain is wired to pick up on invisible social signals that you never even knew you were sending. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what those behaviors are. And I'm going to warn you, some of these are going to feel deeply personal. Because the worst ones are the ones that look like virtues on the surface. Let's start with something that almost nobody talks about. Respect is not given to people who deserve it the most. Respect is given to people who expect it quietly, unconsciously, in the way they carry themselves. This isn't arrogance. It's something much more subtle. It's the difference between someone who walks into a room hoping people will like them versus someone who walks in and simply doesn't question whether or not they belong there. The brain is constantly, automatically evaluating the people around us. And it does this through what psychologists call social signal processing. Before you say a single word, before anyone consciously decides how they feel about you, your body language, your micro behaviors, your reaction patterns have already sent a report to everyone in the room. And here's the part that stings. Most of the things destroying your social standing aren't your flaws. They're your attempts to be liked, to be safe, to avoid conflict, to be seen as a good person. The very behaviors you think are making people respect you more are often doing the opposite. Let me show you what I mean. You cancel a plan, and instead of saying, "I can't make it," you send a paragraph. "Hey, I'm so sorry. I know this is last minute. I really wanted to come, but my week has been crazy, and I have this thing with my family, and I promise I'll make it up to you. I feel terrible about this." You probably think that's being considerate, thoughtful, transparent, but here's what the other person's brain registers. This person feels guilty for having a boundary. This person doesn't believe their reasons are valid unless I approve of them. This person needs my permission to make their own decision. Over-explaining is not a communication style. It's an anxiety response. It's what happens when somewhere deep inside, you've learned that your decisions, your choices, your life requires someone else's approval to be okay. And the cruel irony? The more you explain, the less people trust your judgment. Because confident people don't justify themselves to everyone. They make a decision, they communicate it simply, and they move on. Think about the most respected person you know. Do they send paragraph apologies? Do they justify every choice? Or do they just tell you what's happening and leave space for you to respond? The fix isn't to become cold or dismissive. It's to learn the difference between explanation and justification. Explanation gives information. Justification seeks forgiveness for existing. Next time, try this. "I can't make it tonight. Let's plan something next week." Full stop. No essay, no apology tour. Watch how people respond to you differently. This one is so common that most people don't even notice they do it. Someone says something slightly awkward, or confrontational, or uncomfortable, and you laugh. Not because it's funny, but because silence feels dangerous. Because you don't know what to do with the tension. Because laughing feels like a way to make everyone comfortable, including yourself. Here's what that laugh communicates on a social level. I am uncomfortable, and I'm trying to dissolve the tension before it becomes a problem for me. Nervous laughter is a submission signal. It tells people not consciously, but viscerally that you can be unsettled, that you can be pushed off balance. And once people know that, they know exactly how to position themselves relative to you. There's a particularly damaging version of this that affects a lot of genuinely kind people. It's when someone says something rude, maybe a backhanded compliment, maybe a dismissive comment about your work, your choices, your life. And instead of staying still, instead of meeting it with silence or a calm response, You laugh, like it didn't land, like you're fine. That laugh costs you. Every single time. The alternative isn't to be serious and stiff in all conversations. Humor is powerful. Real laughter is magnetic. But real laughter comes from genuine amusement, not from a need to manage other people's comfort levels at the expense of your own. Practice sitting with uncomfortable silence for just 2 extra seconds before you react. You'll be shocked by how differently people read you. You say something you believe. Someone disagrees, maybe not even aggressively, maybe just confidently, and suddenly your opinion starts to melt. Well, I could be wrong. I don't know, maybe you have a point. Yeah, actually, you're probably right. And you didn't change your mind. You were just uncomfortable with the friction, so you erased yourself to make it stop. This is one of the most invisible ways people lose respect because it's disguised as open-mindedness. And open-mindedness is a virtue. But there's a massive difference between genuinely updating your view based on new information and collapsing your view because someone raised their eyebrows. When you fold under social pressure, not logical pressure, social pressure, you train the people around you to understand that your opinions are negotiable, that they can be talked out of you, that you don't really stand for anything. You stand for whatever makes the room most comfortable. And here's the psychological truth underneath this. People who respect themselves don't need to win every argument, but they also don't abandon positions just because someone else holds a different one. They say things like, "I see it differently," or "I hear you, but I still think." And then they hold the line with zero hostility. You can be warm, you can be kind, you can be genuinely open, but you have to be willing to occupy space to let your view exist in the room alongside someone else's, without one of them having to die. This one is subtle, and it's going to make some of you uncomfortable. Performed humility sounds like this. You get a compliment on your work, and you immediately say, "Oh no, it's not that good. I made so many mistakes. There's so much more I could have done." And the person who complimented you smiles, but something slightly deflates in the room. Because what you just did unconsciously was make them question their own judgment. If your work is genuinely great, and someone sees that, and you immediately argue against it, you're not being humble. You're being difficult. You're forcing them to reassure you. You're making the moment about your discomfort with being seen, rather than about genuine connection. Real humility is quiet. It doesn't perform. It accepts recognition with grace. "Thank you, I worked hard on it," and moves on. Performed humility is noisy. It needs an audience. It needs you to see how unarrogant they are. The deeper issue here is that many people use self-deprecation as a preemptive defense mechanism. If I say it about myself first, you can't hurt me with it. If I point out my own flaws before you can, I control the narrative. It feels like protection, but it actually just teaches people to see you the way you describe yourself. Your words about yourself are social programming. People believe what you tell them not because they're naive, but because your self-description is one of their main data points about who you are. Describe yourself accurately, not arrogantly, not with false modesty, accurately. That's harder than it sounds, but it's the most respectful thing you can do for yourself and for the people around you. There's a particular kind of loneliness that comes from trying too hard to be needed. You respond to messages instantly. You're always free when someone needs something. You make yourself endlessly accessible because somewhere inside, you believe that your value to other people depends on your availability to them. And this one hurts to say. People don't respect what they can always access, not because they're ungrateful or cruel, but because the human brain assigns value based on perceived scarcity and selectivity. When something is rare, we pay attention to it. When it's always available, we stop noticing it. The person who always cancels their own plans to accommodate others gets seen as having no plans worth protecting. The person who's always reachable is never quite as important as the person who sometimes isn't. I want to be very clear here. This is not about playing games. It's not about creating fake unavailability to manipulate people. It's about something much more real. Having a life that you actually protect. Having things that matter enough to you that you don't drop them the second someone else calls. When you have boundaries around your time, real ones, not performed ones, you naturally become less predictably available. And people feel that. They start to value the moments you do give them more. They stop taking your presence for granted. The shift that needs to happen isn't in your schedule, It's in your belief that your time, your attention, your presence has inherent worth, regardless of whether you're using it for someone else. Now here's what I want you to understand, because without this part, everything I've said just becomes a list of tips that you'll try for a week and forget. All 5 of these behaviors come from the same place. They come from a core belief, usually formed a long time ago, in an environment where approval felt necessary for survival, that you are not quite enough as you are, that you need to prove yourself, justify yourself, shrink yourself, perform for yourself in order to be accepted. And the tragedy is this: the behaviors that helped you survive that environment are now the exact behaviors sabotaging your relationships, your reputation, and your sense of self in the present one. You are not broken, you are adaptive. You learned to do the things that kept you safe, but safety has a different shape now, and what kept you safe then is costing you respect now. The people who command natural respect, who walk into rooms and shift the energy without saying a word, they're not doing something. They've stopped doing things. They've stopped managing other people's reactions. They've stopped performing their own worthiness. They've simply settled into themselves. And there's a gravitational pull to that. People feel it. People are drawn to it. People respect it not because they decided to, but because they can't help it. Not by reading a list of confident behaviors and performing them. That just replaces one form of performance with another. The real work is 3 things. First, notice the moment before the behavior, not during, not after. The moment before the nervous laugh, before the collapse, before the essay apology. What does that moment feel like in your body? Where do you feel the pull to shrink? Get familiar with that sensation. Name it. Because once you can feel it coming, you can pause for 2 seconds before reacting. And in that pause, you get to choose. Second, practice tolerating the discomfort of being fully seen without managing it. Say your opinion and let it sit. Receive a compliment without deflecting. Cancel the plan with 1 sentence and let the silence be. This will feel wrong at first. Wrong is not the same as bad. Wrong just means new. Third, start building a relationship with your own time, your own opinion, your own life, not as things that exist for other people, but as things that have value because they're yours. This is not selfishness. This is the foundation everything else is built on. You don't need to become a different person. You need to stop subtracting yourself from the person you already are. Respect is not something you chase. The moment you start chasing it, it moves. The moment you stop chasing it because you found something inside yourself worth respecting, it comes to you, quietly, consistently, from the kinds of people who are actually worth having in your life. You don't need to say more, you don't need to do more. You need to leak less anxiety, less need for approval, less performance of who you wish you were, and let more of who you actually are take up space. That's it. That's the whole game. If any part of this video felt like it was specifically about you, that's not an accident. These patterns are incredibly common, and they're incredibly changeable. The fact that you notice them means you're already most of the way there. If this helped you see something about yourself today, share it with one person who needs to hear it. Not because it helps the channel, but because most people are carrying these patterns in silence, never knowing there's a name for what they're doing and a way out of it. Take care of yourself. See you next time.